Alright, ladies and gentlemen, yes, it is another Battle Brothers video, and this time, I think I've actually found a build that might be incredibly good. So what happened was I made my uh, my peasant militia Catal Dagger Legion army, where I already made a video on it, where we have like a bunch of heater shields and a bunch of Catal Daggers and Dagger Mastery and Fearsome and Battle Forge and all that good stuff going on. And I got to the point in the game, as you can see with all the gear we got here, I got to the point in the game where you're asking yourself about your army, is this the final form of what you're trying to do here, or is there any way we could possibly make this army better in any way, shape, or form? And not only did I discover the answer to that is yes, but we might be looking at one of the most powerful army builds in the entire game. And fortunately or unfortunately, for me, it's not a like reload a earlier save and just, switch some perks around type deal. It's more like you have to start an entirely new campaign because these bros are just completely different animals than any other, than basically the thing that you got going on here. So I'll do an overview on BB of what the heck is actually going on here, or where my brain is at, because we're going to be combining some things that individually they're a bad idea, and then you put all three of them together, and you start going, wait a minute now. So the things that are being merged together that are kind of sus are the dodge perk, Brawny. These two together are not super sus. But then the two others are the Overwhelm perk and Nobel Swords. Yeah, I know that sounds insane, but I'll just run through it really fast. I really need to take a drink of water here. All right. So what's basically going on here is that the Brawny perk is reducing the amount of fatigue from your helmet and your chest armor by 30%, but more importantly, not only does it give you like 30% more fatigue from those items, or stamina to play with from those items, it also gives you 30% more initiative to play with from those items, which is going to come important here when we talk about why we're taking the Overwhelm perk. The last thing here, of course, is dodge. Dodge synergizes with your initiative. Brawny increases your initiative. So, that there's some very serious synergy going on right there. So these three are all kind of synergizing with each other just because Brawny gives you more stamina and it gives you more initiative. Where it gets really interesting, though, is because Brawny gives you so much stamina, suddenly you don't need to level stamina anymore, and you can start leveling initiative, which Overwhelm benefits from and which the dodge perk benefits from. That's where the Nobel Sword comes into play. Noble Swords are usually considered bad weapons in Battle Brothers for mostly two main reasons. The first reason is that they have plus 10% chance to hit, and unless you're a peasant militia origin, which is one of the strongest origins in the game, it's either number 2 or number 1 strongest origin in the entire game because you get 16 brothers, but you don't get any hedge knights. Unless you're a noble... a peasant militia origin, you can't really, your hedge knights can't really make use of the plus 10% chance to hit things, so that's kind of wasted on the sword. On top of that, the swords only do 85% damage to armor, and yes, it says plus 20% damage is penetration, but if you know anything about the mechanics behind penetration and armor in the game, the penetration on the Catal Daggers is also 20%, and unless the enemy's armor starts dropping below 100, you just never see any of that bonus damage going through because of the 10% damage reduction. When I start talking about Chosen and getting hit by Chosen with these, we'll cover that in more detail. But 85% armor damage to armor is not the worst thing in the world. It's not the best. It's not the worst. Noble Swords are actually pretty damn good weapons for one-handed weapons in Battle Brothers. What really makes them amazing, though, is two things. One, if you get your hands on a legendary one, that 85% armor, it'll range between 85% damage to armor to 115% damage to armor, which at that point, if you get like 100% damage to armor on a Noble Sword She is competitive with any other one-handed weapon in the entire game for damage. But really what makes Noble Swords both bad, but in this case amazingly good, is when you have the Sword Mastery perk, which we've got right here. You're only expending 16 stamina a turn while using a Noble Sword, which is the lowest possible stamina expenditure in the entire game for an entire round of attacking. Cleavers will use 18. Daggers with Dagger Mastery and attacking 3 times will burn through 18 stamina. Your brother recovers 15 stamina a turn, and typically you're getting attacked by like 2 enemies, so that's like an additional 4 stamina drain a turn. But the swords are just so stamina efficient that they're borderline stamina neutral weapons for all extents and purposes in combat, which means you can get away with having a very, very small stamina bar with a Noble Sword brother and have no issues basically whatsoever because it's so incredibly stamina efficient. If you get a legendary Noble Sword, which are pretty damn easy to save scum and get from the arena tournaments, if the Noble Sword comes with even like -1 stamina per activation cost, then the thing is basically stamina neutral, and your stamina just never goes down whatsoever. Why this synergizes so spectacularly well with everything we got going on here, right? Dodge, Brawny, Overwhelm, is the fact that suddenly you don't need to level your stamina on your brother anymore, and all your extra level ups of stats can go into initiative instead. And once that starts happening, you end up with your brother will have like 100 base stamina. You've never leveled him up in stamina whatsoever. And if built correctly, he's still running around with more than enough stamina to get the job done. And on top of that, he'll have like something stupid like 87 ish initiative. So he out initiatives basically everything and its dog. In fact, that might even be too much initiative. Dodge synergizes with how much initiative you got going. You're using a Noble Sword, so your stamina is never really going down, which means your initiative stays up, which means your dodge stays up. You're pulling initiative on everyone, and you've got the Overwhelm perk. Terrifying synergy here. Now, let me just prove to you that I'm not making this up in any way, shape, or form. Drink of water. So here we have a Legionnaire, and you can see he has 105 stamina. This brother is my lowest stamina brother in the entire army. Everybody else has got over 105 stamina. 105 stamina is pretty normal for a peasant militia army. Most militiamen will come from with between 100 and like 110 stamina. The next best brothers to recruit are thieves, and thieves come with like between 110 and thieves also come with a fair bit of stamina, also initiative, but we'll get to that in a second. But it's pretty reasonable to assume that when you hire a brother, he'll just come with 100 stamina, right? Drink of water. He'll just come with 100 stamina. And watch what happens when I start putting gear on him. So I'm going to put a decorated full helm on him. Let's also keep an eye on the initiative. Initiative is pretty low at 105, but let's just see what's going on here. So I put a decorated full helm on him. I put the 2 swords, and then one of the keys to this equation, let's pretend I don't have anything going on. If I just put like a normal coat of scales with some fur padding on him, and like nothing here is legendary, nothing here is bonused, nothing here is chatted, this is just some normal gear you can pretty much get anywhere in a Battle Brothers game. You can see he still has 41 stamina to work with, and he's got a whopping 40 initiative or 41 initiative. If this brother had been leveling initiative rather than stamina, he would have like 30 more initiative than this. So he would have 71 initiative while currently in this gear. But really the final form for this type of brother is to have 1 legendary piece of armor kind of slotted in to this build design, right? And that would be either you have a 300 legendary armor helmet, and then you'd be wearing like a normal coat of scales. Or you'd be wearing what we have here, because I don't actually have a good helmet. You'd be wearing some armor like here. I got the other one around here somewhere. Let's actually bring this down really fast. Thanks. Actually, just put it on him and scroll down, because we're going to want to see this in a second. Yeah, so boom, boom. And where's the last one? We want a decorated full helm down here. Okay, cool. So your option one for this brother would be, and I got one more, just so we can show that it's not a fluke. So I got two nice bits of armor here, right? So this one is 280 with fur padding on it, minus 24 fatigue. This is 290 minus 25. And then I'm going to use this gladiator helmet to, even though it's not 300 armor helmet, to simulate a legendary 300 armor helmet, because it's got like, minus 13 fatigue to it. All right, cool. So before, when I was wearing the just normal gear you can just buy anywhere, it's 41-41, right? If I were to swap that out for a legendary helmet, it's now 46 stamina and 46 initiative. So not that big of a change, but definitely noteworthy. Sizable percentage increases. If, however, I put on like just some 300-ish armor with the fatigue reduction, you can see suddenly we got 51 stamina and 51 initiative just based on this brother. So this brother's going to have like 81 initiative if I had leveled initiative on this brother rather than some other stat that we got going on. Like, what the hell? And keep in mind, this is like my lowest stamina and one of my lowest initiative brothers in this entire army. 105, 105. If I look at like this, like any thief or any militiaman, yeah, he's got like 120 stamina, but that's because I've been leveling it up. He's got 120 initiative. Let's try to find a militiaman around here somewhere. Here's another thief. Yeah, 112 and 117 initiative. Where in the heck are my militiamen? I got really unlucky with militiamen in this playthrough. 113 fatigue, but again, I've been leveling fatigue. And then he also has like 106 initiative, which is it's about mid tier for one of these brothers. So anyways, back to the 105. So the idea is you're putting on something like this, where you have one piece of legendary armor, either head or helmet. You're going for 300, 300. Then you have a heater shield and you have a noble sword. And if I had leveled, if this brother had only 100 stamina, which is kind of base for hiring a brother, he would have 45 stamina to play with right now, or about 46 stamina to play with right now. And if instead I had leveled all those skill points into initiative, I would have like 30 more initiative. I don't know what the break point is for initiative and Overwhelm in fights, but I've been looking at it on like the Battle Brothers wiki. And probably the scariest thing I've found in Battle Brothers wiki, as far as initiative is concerned, you might think Raiders would out initiative you. The problem is that they come with 115 initiative, and yeah, I guess it's still not enough. We can probably find that out really fast. Do I even have? I need to go buy the armor then. Let's see if a raider could out initiative you. I've already done the math on footmen. Footmen are running about like a 67 initiative on average. Your brother's going to be having like 85, 87-ish initiative, somewhere around there. This was like the worst case scenario I was showing, where he's like 81 initiative, which means there's almost no fight in the entire game where you're not going to pull initiative on the enemy, and you have Overwhelm. And you're not going to run out of stamina, and you have the dodge perk, like bleh. But we'll look at the math on that in a second. Let me just confirm that whether raiders are even out initiating. If a raider's out initiating us, we really don't care all that much, because we're just going to walk over them anyways, right? Where's a normal helmet for a raider? Like, what is this crap? I guess this is one. Yeah, sure, I'll buy that. And a heater shield. They might not have a heater shield. All right, whatever. So they were 115 initiative. Let's find a bro that has like 115-ish initiative. 115 initiative and Brawny. All right, well, there's 117, 105, 100s. 105, 108. Guess 115 will have to do. 117 will have to do. All right, so 117 is the closest I can get to whatchamacalls, 215, which is what that raider had. Again, I'm looking at Battle Brothers Wiki over here, right? Brigand Raider, 115 initiative, has the Brawny perk. Okay, cool. So I'll just level this guy up. I'll put him in the proper gear, and we'll see what the hell is going on. Where are we at? Where's my 117? All the way over here? Cool. Actually, I need to reset this stuff, don't I? Where's my armor? I just bought the armor. Where the hell's the armor? Is it like really bad armor, so you put it all the way at the bottom? Yes, you did. Okay, cool. Let's assume he doesn't have, like, what's a good weapon to give a Brigand Raider? Late game, whatever. I'll just give the Brigand Raider a Nobel Sword, and they may or may not have a shield. Actually, that's not true. Brigand Raiders almost always have shields. All right, so we'll do a Brigand Raider right here. You can see our bro has 81 initiative, right? So you might or might not, yeah. Most of your brothers will actually outspeed the Brigand Raiders under the vast majority of circumstances. The only time you're not going to is if the Brigand Raider has like a two-handed weapon, because that doesn't cause a lot of stamina. But it's Brigand Raiders. We're not scared of Brigand Raiders like at all. And that was like the fastest initiative guy I could possibly find. Which is why I was looking at like Chosen Barbarians. Chosen Barbarians are like, again, Militia Army Footmen are like 67 initiative. Nomads, which are just going to walk over, not that high initiative. What else doesn't have? Yeah, so the Chosen's not that high initiative. The Orc's not that high initiative. Unhold's not that high initiative. I think you're pulling initiative on basically everything in the game at that point, which is disgusting because then suddenly we get to factor in Overwhelm into the equation. All right, now let's talk stats. What does this get us exactly? I'll go back to BBB Planner over here. All right. Well, basically we want to look at melee defense. So, most peasant militia armies will have an attack ranging in like the low 90s. So like 92, 93-ish attack across the board. There's a bit of a break point for your attack in Battle Brothers, which is like 105 attack. Most enemies in the game only have a 10 melee defense, so they're only reducing your chance to hit them by 10%. And by the that's why when you have 105 melee attack minus 10%, you have a 95% chance to hit them. That's why 105 attack is a little bit of a break point, right? Hedge Knights can easily go above and beyond 105 attack. They'll be like 110 attack at most. They hit the break point without breaking a sweat, which is why Noble Swords are kind of wasted on them because you don't get to use the plus 10% chance to hit. But for Peasant Militia, it's always going. It's just amazing. So the plus 10% chance to hit is not wasted. You're almost always going to hire Battle Brothers who have 3 stars or the equivalent of 3 stars. On average, I like to think my Battle Brothers have like about 5 melee defense. 5 melee defense, 3 stars. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. Yada 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 yada. When they don't have less, you just give them a legendary shield and call it a day. It is what it is. So you end up having like 40 melee defense because putting points in here every single turn is going to level this up by 35. And then Gifted, of course, will add another 3.5. We'll lowball that with Gifted and just say 3 for the sake of argument here, because the 5 base is us increasing, so I want to decrease it over there as well. So what do we got going on here? So it will be 5 plus 35 equals plus Gifted would be additional 3 melee defense. Okay, great. Shields are kind of interesting because the shield mastery says it should increase the defense of your shield by 25%. However, the bonus 25% is also subject to the 25%. So your brother just ends up gaining exactly 26 melee defense. So if you see right here where 39 melee defense, I'm going to put this on. You would think it would go up by 24 based upon the way a shield mastery is written. It's actually going to go up 25. I'll bet you. So it's going to be 50, 64. Yeah, boom, right? And that's pretty consistent across the board. So if I give this guy a heater shield, he's got 35 melee defense plus 25. He's going to be, what, 60? Yeah, 60. So it's 25 melee defense, basically just for a heater shield. Okay, cool. So now we add the shield, which is like 25 melee defense. All right, 68. Now we have to basically assume that we have somewhere in the vicinity of, like, I'll give a middle of the road number, like 84 initiative, right? 84 initiative is pretty middle of the road number, because your militiamen, again, they have between 100 to 110 initiative. Your thieves have significantly more initiative, like 110 to 120. So I'm going to give a nice rounding number here. By the time you level up initiative levels faster than any other stat in the game. Where's it at? Yeah, 3 to 5 without any stats whatsoever. Basically, every point you put in here is worth 4 initiative. And you're going to be putting between 5 to 6 level ups into the initiative, just because you do not need to level stamina with this build. So you have, like, nothing better to do once you get your resolve. You're just, like, putting numbers into initiative, and it ends up being on, you know, like 28 if you do 7 levels to it. So I'm just going to high roll it a little bit and say whatever for the sake of my sanity, and say it's like plus 30 initiative, and that's what gets you basically to the 80. Oh, right, we need a calculator because we're still looking at melee defense. Did I turn that away? Anyways, it was 68 melee defense. So let's just say you have, for the sake of my sanity, you have like 86-ish initiative by the time you're done putting on all this armor, which is completely normal. Let's go back to this bro right here. So this bro right here, who didn't have very high initiative at all, this bro right here had the medium level initiative, if I recall. He had like the 105 initiative. Yeah, so he's got like mid-tier initiative. If I had plus that by, he'd have 30 more initiative, so he'd have 81 initiative right now. So we're just going to assume it's a bit higher than that on average, you know, 86 initiative. And then we're going to go with dodge, which will give you 0.15% of that as melee defense. So you're gaining about 13 melee defense from the dodge perk when it's all said and done, which is pretty cool. So if you remember, we were at 68, and now we have to add 13 to that. So now we've got 81 melee defense effectively on our brother, and that's without confident morale. That's without a legendary shield. That's without anything extra going on whatsoever. Pretty damn gross. And we still have Overwhelm that we haven't factored in. The reason why I'm getting this melee defense stat for us is so that we can kind of see what life is going to be like if we're fighting Chosen, which is something that would normally be really scary, or just about anything else in the game. And again, how the melee defense, of course, works is every point over 50 melee defense, its effectiveness is basically cut in half. So if I really want to find the true number, I'm lowering the enemy's chance to hit me. I have to subtract this by 50, I have to divide it by 2, and then I have to add the 50 back to it. And as you can see, we're lowering our enemy's chance to hit us by about 65%. I've been rounding up on the initiative and other little things here and there. So we're just going to say that we're reducing the enemy's chance to hit us by about 65%. Well, Chosen Axemen, the really scary Chosen guys, have, let's go to wikis. Zoop. All right, down here, yeah. Chosen have one of the highest attacks in the entire game of any enemy you're going to fight, which is like 75. The average attack of an enemy that you're going to face is going to be a 70 on average. 75s are the normal number for significantly more scarier enemies. And then some of the highest attack you're going to fight in the game will be like Barbarian Kings, which have like 80 attack. The only thing that has a higher attack, I think, is like a Sword Dancer. Desert. Yeah, no, not the desert. It's like Sword Dancer, or yeah, Blade Dancer, 90 melee attack, and I think the other one is like a Fencer, who has incredibly high attack. But there's only like 1 or 2 of those guys in an army. That's not the same as, like, you know, fighting like 16 Chosen Axemen with 75 melee attack. All right, But what this melee defense is going to do is it's like, yeah, you have 75 melee attack, but I'm just going to minus that by 65. Oh, look, you have a 10% chance to hit me. And then because you're pulling initiative on them, the sheer act of you attacking them with like moving forward, swinging once with your Noble Sword, it'll cause 1 Overwhelm proc on them, and that's going to lower this attack. It lowers it by 10%. Let's just go read the what Overwhelm does really fast. Learn to take advantage of your high initiative and prevent the enemy from attacking effectively by overwhelming them with your attacks. With every attack, hit or miss against an opponent that acts after you in the current round, inflicts the Overwhelm status effect, which lowers both melee skill and range skill by 10% for 1 turn. The effect stacks with each attack and can be applied to multiple targets at once with a single attack. Cool. What this means is we're further reducing their ability to hit us basically by 7%, right? Because if I lower their 75 attack by 10%, I'm lowering it by 7.5. Battle Brothers may or may not round up in our favor, but in this case, it really doesn't matter because 10 minus 7 gives them a 3% chance to hit us, and the game is going to say, screw you, it's actually a 5% chance you get hit. So what this means is that even if we start going down a little bit in stamina during the course of the fighting, these chosen axemen, which are some of the scariest jerks in the entire game, are going to have a 5% chance to hit you. Against the Barbarian King, which has an 80% chance to hit us, we minus 65. And then if we walk up and get an Overwhelm proc on him, like single Overwhelm proc, it's going to further reduce that by 8. Which means he has a 7% chance to hit us, or maybe a 6%, depending upon how Battle Brothers... actually, that's not true. It'll be a 7% chance to hit you. That's an insanely low chance to hit you. I was talking to one guy that makes Battle Brothers videos about this, and he commented that he wouldn't want to fight Chosen without STEELBROW. And I see what he's saying, but I decided to get off my butt and actually do the math on what it looks like for this brother right here to sacrifice STEELBROW in exchange for this just ungodly amount of melee defense effectively. And it is a little scary, but it's not that bad with Battleforge. So let's look at this armor really fast here. So you can see that I have... a decorated full helm, and then like basically a 300 piece of armor. My Battle Forge is at 69%. Let's find those item bits. Spoiler alert, when the enemy actually hits me, I need to put that on. I need to scroll down. I need to put that over here, and I need to get back this thing. Spoiler alert, I have it written down somewhere. I can actually go look at the comments really fast. That might be the easiest way to do it in the grand scheme of things. Where is my response? Boo, 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 boo. All right, cool. We got our bro here. And we can view... yeah, okay, cool. So he responded, well, one-shot you, even at 5%. I wouldn't swap STEELBROW. Without STEELBROW, you get first hit injuries from crossbows. That's if you get hit in the head. Chosen will one-shot you even if it's 5%. I don't think so, man. The math is saying something else. I've been hit in the head with a Barbarian King for like 66 damage, and you're just like, whatever. So we might have to disagree, agree to disagree on this one. Where's my response? Is this it? Like, what's going on here? Or no, maybe he didn't respond to me. Oh, this is my response to him. So he's saying it's really scary if you get hit in the head by a Chosen and crossbows. I haven't looked at crossbows. I'll have to get off my butt and look at it. But I started doing the math. And basically what happens is, let's see here. 1 second. Proof of concept. You guys know the drill. The weapon in question we were getting hit with is a... it's an axe. No, it's not an axe hammer. What the hell? It's a... it's got the word hammer in it. I know that. Two-handed skull hammer. Okay, yeah. So the weapon in question that's really scary is the skull hammer. It's really scary because it does 50% of bonus damage that ignores armor, and it does 180% weapon damage to your armor, which means that if this thing hits us in the head, the way the game is going to calculate this damage is basically this. This weapon's average damage output is 55. It will, since it's hitting armor, it will multiply that by 180. So we got to multiply that by 1.8. It results in it doing about 99 damage, which means it'll do about 100 damage. But your Battle Forged in the first hit for 69%, so you can only receive 69% of any damage to armor from attacks. So then we have to reduce this by basically 69%, which we'll do right now. So you can see that we're taking 69 damage to the helmet armor. For the sake of my sanity, I'm just going to round that up to 70. Okay. So in the first hit, we'll take like 70 damage to the armor. We will have 200 if this is a decorated full helm like we have right here. Again, we're questioning, do we need the Steel Brow perk, yes or no? Because this build sacrifices Steel Brow perk in order to get this ungodly high melee defense. And in my brain, it's basically like, well, if my melee defense is high enough, the higher my melee defense gets, up until cap, the less and less valuable the Steel Brow perk is. But right now, we're actually looking at how bad it is. So we're going to allow a Chosen to smash us in the head twice in a row with a weapon that we do not want to get smashed in the head with twice in a row, keeping in mind that these Chosen have a 5% chance to hit us, which means that getting hit in the head is a 1 in 80 attack event. Because 80, let's see, 80 divided by 5. No, wait, that's not true. That's not what I want. 80 times 0.0, fudge you. 80 times 0.05 equals 4. So out of 80 attacks, the Chosen Axeman will hit me 4 times. And every time you get hit, there's a 25% chance it ends up going to the head. Okay, that means out of every 80 attacks, we're going to get hit in the head once. We're going to do like the worst case scenario, which is this guy just bitch slaps us in the head twice in a row. Anyways, our armor takes 70 damage, which means that out of minus 320, it's going to be 250 armor remaining. On average, that weapon does 33 damage because it does 55 average damage. And then 50% bonus damage of that goes to your HP. So we have to divide this by 2. Whoa. Am I right about that? 50%. I thought it was more. I thought this thing does it do 60% armor pen? Huh. My bad. Maybe it's not as bad as I thought it was. Okay. Yeah, so average it does 55. Am I right about? Yes, I am correct about that. Okay, cool. So it's going to divide by 2, which is 27.5. So I'm just going to say that we're going to take, in the first hit, we're taking 28 HP damage to the face. However, one sec, let me cough. There we go. Talking too much. Because there's 250 armor remaining, 10% of that will be reduced from that damage. And if you recall, we were taking 28 damage, HP damage to the head. Instead, that is going to do they have the Brute perk? They got Headhunter. Oh, shit. No, that's Blade Dancer. Thank God. If a Barbarian Chosen have Headhunter, I'm going to be like, oh, that's kind of terrifying. They got Crippling Strike. They have all weapon masteries. They have Anticipation, Berserk, Pathfinder, Recover, Brawny, Resilient. Yeah, okay. So they do not have Headhunter, or they do not have anything extra going on. Huh. Anyways, we're supposed to take 25 HP damage to the head. Instead, the game... my bad. We're taking 28 damage to the HP damage. Instead, the game will reduce that by 25 because we still have 250 armor remaining on our head. which means we'll have 3. We'll take 3 damage, and only now does the plus 50% damage, HP damage bonus to the head actually get applied, which is 1.5. So we're taking 4.5 HP damage to the head. That's unironically how the formula works. We can just prove that really fast here. Combat mechanics. Yeah, sure. Combat mechanics. Scroll down. It gives this lovely little example. Yeah, massive example right here. You can see in the tooltip down here, like right here, it says Orc Warrior takes 27. This is the HP damage. It says that it rolled 27 damage on the HP damage, the penetration damage. There's 180 armor remaining, so it subtracts it by 18. F off. It subtracts it by 18, 10% of remaining armor, and only then does it multiply it by the 1.5 to get the extra damage. And it even says it right here, right? HP damage equals HP times 1.5. And that is if critical hit. That's when you get hit in the head, right? So it doesn't increase the damage by 50% and then subtract 10% of remaining armor. It subtracts 10% of remaining armor and then multiplies it by 50%, which is kind of a big deal, right? So the first hit in the head, we took 70 damage because we're battle forged, and we ate 4.5 HP damage to the skull. All right, that was the first hit in the head, 1 in 80 attacks. All right, well, what does the second one look like? Well, I just happen to have a kettle hat here, which has 250 armor on it, which just so happens to be how much armor is left remaining on our helmet after we get cracked in the skull by a chosen axeman. So I can look at our battle forged number. Oh, look, we have 72% battle forged with this current gear. All right, well, let's do that whole process over again. So another 100 damaging armor hit comes in. I have to multiply that by 0.72 because I'm still battle forged. So now we're taking 72 damage to the head. There is, how much armor is remaining? 250 minus 72. Okay, I'm just going to say that's 180 HP remaining. Exact number that is in the Battle Brothers wiki example given. Damage to head won't change. It'll still be 20. It'll be 28 on average. Could be higher, could be lower. And now, but now we're only minusing that by 18, and then we're multiplying that by 1.5. So after taking 2 hits to the head, we have lost basically somewhere in the vicinity of about 20 HP. We may or may not have a head injury, right? The dude does have crippling strikes. We might, there's a good chance we have a broken nose at this point. But to be perfectly honest, we're probably capable of taking even a 3rd hit to the head and being perfectly fine. I wouldn't want to take a 3rd hit to the head. And mathematically, a 3rd hit to the head is just like, Jesus, like, what are we even talking about at this point? You have a better chance of winning the lottery. Getting hit in the head is going to be a common thing that happens in this army. So if I'm fighting like a bunch of chosen axemen, what's basically going to be happening is there's like 14, 16 of them swinging on you every turn. Mathematically, they're going to get to the number 80 pretty damn quickly. And someone's going to get hit in the head. That battle brother that gets hit in the head can easily sustain another hit to the head, no problem whatsoever. But you're probably going to want to focus or baby him a little to take him off the line, because it's like, why risk the RNG? But I'm just not seeing the problem here. I can try looking at the crossbows, which is what the guy also says. But you'll notice that dodge is gaining 13%. You gain 15% of the character's initiative as a bonus to melee and range defense. And our dodge is so stupidly high that it's basically giving us plus 13 range defense on these brothers. It's not going to be these brothers who don't have STEELBROW that are going to be getting crossbow shotted. It's going to be the brothers behind them that are going to be crossbow shotted. And I've already talked about in a previous video why The back line of this army are literally jab-throwing nimble tanks. Like, look at this guy. He's got 94 range attack, and he's got 69 melee defense, and he's literally a nimble tank. The reasons for this is because it allows me to take these jab bros, 68 nimble tank. What is this? This is my lowest one at 58, 91 nimble tank. 65, 86 nimble tank. These guys don't even have the dodge perk. They're just like, they took frenzy instead because somebody had to. Somebody's got to get the kills and get the damage bonuses going here. But they get taken in every single army. They get taken into unhold fights. I already showed a video of fighting unholds with this army. They get taken fighting orcs because they literally don't care. The enemies charge through. They get on top of them, and they're just like, okay, I back up a hex, and I keep throwing jabs and stuff at you. Enjoy being surrounded and absolutely murdered, ganged up on and obliterated. If for whatever reason a brother needs to come off the line, which is a very rare occurrence even with this army, with the one that we're proposing to make, it's going to be almost unheard of that a brother will need to come off the line. But if a brother does need to come off the line, you literally have like a nimble tank bro that can just step up into it. And it's like worst case scenario, you have a spear here, and you just put a spear on him and you stab. Or you just shield wall and make your defense, 5%, same with everybody else. And he just holds the line. It's like the better of the two options. Very, very, very interesting build, to be perfectly honest with you. What else is there to say here? Initiative. Right. I wanted to look at crossbows. Because he says, I'm scared to get hit in the head by chosen axeman without SteelBrow. I'm looking at it, and I'm like, I'm not seeing it. Let's look at crossbows. So I think it'll be like a heavy crossbow or something like that is like the scariest thing you can get. I think with crossbow mastery, like increases their penetration. Crossbow additional plus 20% of any damage inflicted. Crossbows ignores armor. Hand cannoners. Okay, cool. So I have to add an additional 20% to that because arbalisters, if I go to, let's go back to the enemies. Enemies, humans, noble houses. Oh, thanks, bro. That's cute. Yeah, nobody cares. Thank you. Standard bearer, knight, sergeant, arbalister. Okay, cool. They do have crossbow mastery, rotation, recover, bullseye, brawny. Got it. I'm not sure what their ranged attack is. 60. Okay. Hopefully the ranged attack works completely the same. Let's look at our range defense here really fast. So if I'm just chilling with a heater shield, what's your base? Do you actually have it? You have a decently high range defense base. Let's find someone who doesn't. Does everyone in my army have a decently high ranged Okay, 3s. 3, but everybody else got like 9s and shit. All right, well, I guess a 5 is kind of fine. 6 is fine. Whatever. So our bro here already has 24 range defense with just a heater shield on. With the dodge perk, that 24 would add an additional 13. So he'd have like 37 range defense, which is absolutely terrifying. That's why I'm trying to say that the nimble tanks in the back are going to be eating the arbalister shots, not the dudes in the front. The one guy who gets arbalisted pretty much without exception in any Battle Brother army is the banner. Often it's not the worst idea in the world to give him some range defense because they always go for the banner if it's possible. If they can't, they just kind of shoot whatever they has the lowest range defense. 37 range defense, so you'll have like a 60% chance to hit me. With that being reduced by every tile, and it's being reduced by like 37%. This guy's going to have like maybe a 10% chance to hit this bro with a crossbow. And then on top of that, it's going to be a 25% chance to get hit in the head. But let's just assume the worst case scenario and you eat 2 crossbow bolts to the face. That's still only 70% armor penetration. And you can see crossbows are the one bad thing about crossbows is they have amazing armor penetration, but they have really bad damage to armor, and their baseline damage isn't all that great either. So this looks like 60. We'll just do this really fast. Okay, so they have 60 base damage, but 75% is really bad. So I multiply that by 0.75. You can see they're doing a whopping 45 damage to the armor. I'm going to say that's 50 just for the sake of my sanity. So I'm going to give you like 10% more damage on that weapon for no reason other than to make the math. Jesus. 60, they're going to have 70 bonus damage of that is armor penetration. Okay, cool. So I need to take 70% of 60. Okay, cool. We'll take 70% of 60. This crossbow is going to do 42 HP damage when it slams into my damn head and 50-ish armor damage. My 320 decorated full helm will take 50 damage to it, which means 270 remaining. So I need to reduce that number by 25. I forgot that number, lol. So I'm just going to do the 70% again. And I'm reducing that by 27. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. Minus 27. Okay. Equals. And then we're timesing that by 1.5. Cool. So the first time this guy takes a crossbow bolt to his fucking dome, he's going to take 22.5 HP worth of damage. We're going to round that down because we already rounded up the damage. He'll take about, 21, 22 HP damage to the head without STEELBROW. Is that bad enough to cause an injury? Yeah, he'll probably have a cut cheek. That's not going to give him a broken nose. It'll probably give him a cut cheek, to be perfectly honest. But again, that's like a 10% chance or less that he gets hit. On top of that's a 1 in 40 crossbow shot event. And the worst case scenario is you pull brother off the line. And what's weird about that is the armor damage here is so low that the next shot is just going to do the same damn thing, right? The next shot will reduce the armor again by 50. It will do like, what was that, like 48 damage to, all right, 60 times 0.7 equals, yeah, so the next shot will also do, if it hits you in the head, we'll do 40, we'll do, I just got to do the armor. So it was minus 28 before. So now it's minus 23, okay, because I still have tons of armor left over. Crap, I forgot Battleforge, so it's even less. Fuck. Okay, let me redo it. Oh, no. All right, so it's supposed to, now I'm not going to be generous at all. We're just going to get the raw number. So he's on average going to do 45 damage to the armor. However, the armor is Battleforged at 69%. So I got to do that. So it's only going to do like 30 damage to the armor. Okay, cool. So that means there's 290 armor remaining, which is minus 29. It's 60. Remember, it's 42. Okay, 42 HP damage. But then it's minus 29. 42 minus 29. There we go. Okay, cool. So I took 13 damage, but I got to multiply it by the critical modifier. All right, cool. On average, we took like 20 HP damage to the first from the first crossbow bolt to the dome. May or may not have an injury. These guys don't exactly have crippling strikes or anything like that. That's like a 10%. That's a 1 in 40 crossbow bolt that does that. Let's be even crazier. What does the next one do? Well, the next one is honestly my armor hasn't gone down at all. Do I even have an armor value low enough for this? Like, I don't think I do. I'm just going to assume that the armor's 290, bro. It's 200. Yeah, we're just going to assume that it's still 70% Battleforged. All right, so Jesus Christ. 45 times 0.7 equals, all right, cool, I'll round up then. We'll say the next one does 32 armor damage. Which is like, 2 minus 30. Okay, cool. So we're at like 260 armor, which is minus 26. 42 minus 26 equals times 1.5, right? Okay, so the next crossbow bolt that slams into this guy's dome, it does 24 HP damage. I can literally take like 3 more bolts to the face before this brother will die. Yeah, there's injuries. Maybe not injuries, but it's just not happening. So the chosen swordsman is just not happening. No reason to fear them with this army whatsoever. The crossbow bolts are just not happening. You might get a cut cheek and be a little pissed off, and that's about it. The chosen axeman might break your nose, and you'll be a little bit more pissed off, but it's just not an issue. Especially when you're doing the whole peasant militia army thing. So a normal army of hedge knights, a brother taking an injury and needing to be taken off the line is kind of a big deal. Even the brother being forced to be in reserve is kind of a big deal while recovering, just because you have so few brothers in general. But the peasant militia, they just have so many bros that taking a guy off the line doesn't change anything, especially if you got like your range throwers or nimble tanks to just plug the gap. And on top of that, they always have at least 6, 7, 8 brothers in reserve. They're not in reserve to recover from injuries. They're just in reserve because in case somebody needs to recover from an injury. So you really don't care. You literally do not care. So I think this is just kind of insane. And so we're clear about the stats here. Okay. Drink of water. So we're clear about the stats here. Let's build it really fast. So let's do the meta army first. Meta army looks something like is it? Now I need 12 bros. Okay, 12 bros, cool. It's like that. And I'm gonna build the axeman, the meta army really fast here. I did this in a previous video, but I just want to make sure that we're comparing. I have to compare this army's combat capabilities in totality to what is considered the meta build army in Battle Brothers, right? So what I'm doing right now is I'm literally just I'll just load a save. Derp. We want this save right here. Okay, cool. Yes, sir. And then I want to pull all these bros off the line. One more bro off the line. I think, yeah, it's like that bro comes off the line. These guys scoot over a little bit. All right, sweet. The army may or may not have a banner. I'll just keep the banner in there. Yeah, that's about right. Okay, cool. And then we'll give all these guys... Oh, no. No. And then we'll give all these guys long axes. Since I don't have a bunch of great axes to showcase really fast here. Alright, sweet. So, the meta army build in Battle Brothers is you don't go peasant militia, and instead you have like a bunch of oath takers and a bunch of hedge knights, which I've already looked at the stats difference between them and like the peasant militia army in a different video. The hedge knights literally have like 5 more attack on average than what you can get in peasant militia, and they have like 3 more melee defense, and they often have something like 20 more stamina to play with, just because all the other stats are just so high in general that you just get to put more level ups into stamina and other things than you otherwise would with your more with your peasant militia army. But the meta build is that you have a front line of like 6 great axes, and these guys they have a giant 2-handed axe, and then they have quick hands, and they steel brow, of course, because they don't have any shields. And then they quick hands into a long axe, so they can like take one step forward and then attack with their giant 2-handed axe. That entire process costs 15 stamina. They regenerate 15 stamina a turn, so that they literally never run out of stamina. Which is basically the same thing we're doing with the Nobel Swords, just in a more roundabout way. And then if they need to hit something farther away, they can quick hands into a long axe, which also gets the benefit of axe mastery and attack with the long axe. That also costs 15 stamina. All right, cool. The army, since these guys will be hit like, they'll have like a 20% a 20 to 25% chance to be hit by chosen axes and other really scary things that they don't want to get hit by. What ends up happening is the army also requires like 2 mega tanks, guys that are basically wielding the goblin spear because it's the lowest stamina spear. All they care about is a plus 20% to hit with the spear, and their entire job is to be like to have Indomitable and to have the highest melee defense possible with Recover, and to get as many enemies tied down with them as possible so that these guys don't get overwhelmed by like sheer numbers, right? And then your back line usually consists of 4 bros, and they're all throwing axemen, but they're like heavily specialized, duelist, no shield wearing, headhunter, throwing axemen, killing frenzy throwing axemen. They're not like these weird nimble tanks throwing axemen that I have going on here. But then you find yourself in situations where in some fights, because your ranged bros are so frail, you just cannot take your ranged bros. And then other fights you can. So a lot of your reserve spaces are taken up by the difference between are we taking throwing axes or are we not taking throwing axes to the fight. An issue the peasant militia doesn't really have. What else is there to say? Yeah, so this is the really scary meta army. It has incredible stamina efficiency, and it has amazing mobile DPS. This thing can maintain 100% of its, almost 100% of its DPS while moving 1 hex a turn and never running out of stamina, which is awesome. This is something that the one-handed weapons absolutely cannot do. The sheer act of moving with a one-handed weapon causes their DPS output to be cut in half. A great axe on average versus an armored target will do 180 damage a turn. A noble sword, for example, will do about half of that, about 90 damage per turn. And that's me even being generous and saying it's got like 100% damage to armor because it's a medium tier legendary noble sword, right? But if you do the math on all the DPS output of this army, damage per turn output of this army does about 1,700 damage per turn, right? Which is pretty good. That's a lot of damage. That's a lot of damage. The 1,700 damage per turn. My Catal Dagger army, which is the one we've been staring at this entire time, the Peasant Militia Catal Dagger army, does about 1,650, just to put things in perspective. So the Catal Dagger army, even though Catal Daggers are terrible against armor, the Catal Dagger army is still doing very, very high damage output, and they're about twice as durable. So this army is mathematically, probably objectively superior to the meta army in the grand scheme of things, just because it has only slightly less total DPS output, while at the same time being significantly harder to kill and just deal with in general because there's like 16 brothers, right? The Noble Sword army is going to be even more terrifying. So, for example, the two-handed axemen, chosen axes have a 25% chance to hit them. Chosen axes have a 13% chance to hit these bros effectively. So again, that's where you're getting the double durability, right? But the noble swords bring that down to like 5%. Oh my god. So they're like 4 to 5 times. The armies would be 4 to 5 times more durable than even the chosen axes, which is insane. And it would do about similar It'll actually it will literally do better DPS output than even this army. It'll probably get up close to 1700 DPS output, damage per turn output. The reason why it's damage per turn output, like let's say these were all noble swords, right? The great axe is doing 180. One of these brothers is doing 90 per turn. If any of these brothers are forced to move, their damage goes to shit, which is different than the chosen axemen. But where the real killing power of the militia army is, it's just this massive backline. Like, I don't have it right now because I just couldn't find them. But it's not uncommon for the militia army to have 6 spear throwers in the back while having like 9 bros in the front. They don't use mega tanks, and the mega tanks basically do no damage. So the meta army basically has a roster of 2 tanks and 10 damage dealers, whereas the peasant militia army has a roster of 16 damage dealers, right? But these guys basically do half the damage. So if I pull up a calculator here really fast, you can start seeing why it ends up being the way that it is. So we have a front line of 9 bros, but they only do half the DPS of great axes, but they're just insanely hard to kill, right? So I'll divide that by 2, right? Because 2 of these bros is worth 1 great axe bro in DPS. Okay, cool. So we have 5.4 great axe brothers worth of throwing DPS. But then we have 7 backliners worth of ranged bro DPS, which is absolutely mentally challenging. And if we factor in the banner, the meta build has 3 jab throwers, and the peasant militia army has 6 jab throwers. So it's like twice as many jab throwers. It's like qua. If you assume the jab throwers do like the same amount of DPS, then something stupid like this happens. So if I go 4.5 times 180, or I just do it raw, I mean, each one of these brothers with a noble sword would do like 90 DPS. The Catal daggers do 78 for comparison. That's not even true. Okay, I'm being disingenuous here. A non-legendary noble sword attacking twice versus armor will do about 80 damage. A Catal dagger attacking twice versus 3 times versus armor will do 78 damage. So the noble swords barely out DPS. My bad. The Catal daggers barely out DPS the noble swords. The difference is that the noble swords get a plus 10% chance to hit over the Catal daggers, which all told puts their DPS, even higher. And then once you get like even moderate your hands on legendary noble swords, it's a large increase to go from 85% damage to armor to 100% damage to armor. It's actually, I do believe, like a 22% damage increase, which is why okay, maybe 20% derp. 85 times 1.2. Okay, so 19% damage increase. All right, cool. It's a big damage increase to get your noble sword up to 100% armor penetration. Right, anyways. We'll just take the base numbers. So 80 damage per noble sword. We got 9 noble sword users. Okay, cool, 720. Then we have, like, what is that? Like 6 throwing axemen in the back. Let's say each throwing axeman does like 180 damage a turn, which is kind of reasonable, to be perfectly honest with you. I could do the math on these guys if you really wanted me to really fast. Heavy bundle throwing axes, 25% armor pen. It's not really going to be happening. 115% damage against armor. Let's just look at that really fast. The hell was the damage ratio on this thing? 30 to 50. So we're looking at 40 average at 115. All right, 40 times 115 equals, fuck off, 40 times 11. Okay, that's not true. 1.15. All right, cool. 46. Got it. So they do 46 damage to armor every time you throw it. You'll be throwing it like twice, so they'll do like 92 damage to armor. Damn, so the jabs actually don't do anywhere near as much damage as I thought they would. They get a lot of kills, and they start getting killing frenzy, and they start going even crazier, but we'll just... Damn, I'm just going to assume it's 50, because I can't remember what 45 is. Alright, so, the meta build, 180, let's use the meta build really fast, 180 times 6 of the frontliners, and then we've got... was it 90? I think it was a 90 a Jav. Yeah, because it was like 40 times 1.15 equals times 2 equals. We're going to say 90 a Jav. Okay, so 90 times 4, 36. 360, 360, 360, 360, 360, 360. Okay, cool. So maybe I'm wrong. I'm adjusting the numbers of the throwing jabs. I thought they did the exact same amount of damage as the great axes, but apparently they don't. So the meta build army will do roughly about 1,500 damage a turn. And what is this Noble Sword army doing? The Noble Sword army, we're not going to be disingenuous. Basic bitch Noble Swords do 80 damage per bro. We got to multiply that by 9 for 9 front rankers. And then we have 720 times 720 plus 720 equals. Yeah, so you're doing about 1350 with this noble army. If you get your hands on some legendary swords, these noble swords, these numbers will start skyrocketing. But it was important to note that the meta build does 1500 DPS per turn, damage per turn to armor. This peasant militia army is doing 1350 mathematically, which is noticeably less, but it's not less enough to account for the fact that it is literally 4 to 5 times harder to kill than the current supposedly king meta build in the game. That is objectively terrifying. Like, just straight up objectively terrifying. So, yeah, I've got to go build this, like, Noble Sword thing. Unfortunately, Classic World of Warcraft, Blizzard announced like a couple of days ago that in 1 week they would be launching fresh Classic World of Warcraft servers. And this is a Classic World of Warcraft channel, almost predominantly. So I'm not going to have the time for like about 3 months to literally create and be able to make a video showcasing this Noble Sword army that is being proposed. When I do, I will definitely make some videos because I'm very, very, very curious about it. But all the math is basically only pointing in one direction with these guys. And that is basically that I get about 100 stamina, give or take. And then I just level initiative and I take Overwhelm. And I completely ignore the STEELBROW perk. So rather than taking STEELBROW, I end up taking Dodge. Rather than taking Fearsome, I end up taking Overwhelm. Why can I not do this with the Dagger army? Well, the daggers are nowhere near as stamina neutral as the Noble Swords. The Noble Swords are using up 16 stamina a turn. These guys are using up 18 stamina a turn to attack 3 times. Because they're attacking 3 times, you would think they would be better overwhelmers. But as we saw, anything beyond a single overwhelm perk on my enemy is basically wasted, right? And on top of that, when you're attacking somebody 3 times, you're really benefiting from the Fearsome perk. So it's really hard to give up the Fearsome perk on the Dagger build army. But in theory, this build could work just as well with the daggers as it works with anything else. If anything, the Dagger army would allow you to wear even less armor and have, like, you know, that 5% chance get the enemy melee defense chance to hit you down to 5%. Since you don't have STEELBROW, you're pretty much going to be stuck wearing a 300 armor helmet, whether you like it or not. But it's the one thing there's two things that are making the noble swords, in my opinion, objectively better than the daggers. Like noticeably objectively better than daggers. The first one is that when the noble swords become legendary, they're going to get above 90% damage to armor without breaking a sweat. Whereas the Katal dagger does like 70% damage to armor, and legendary they max out at 100% damage to armor, compared to the noble sword, which is 85, and it can go up to 115%. I don't care about the percentage points that go over 100%. I just care that I'm like somewhere close to 100% damage to armor with the noble sword, because at that point the noble sword's DPS output goes up from like 80 to 90. And as we saw there, that would easily, I think, put it within the range of, it's like plus 90 damage a turn. And as you saw, we were already really close to being competitive with the great swords. So more synergy with the noble sword legendary weapons than with the great sword legendary weapons. One of these bros has a legendary Katal dagger around here. So yeah, no damage increase on the Katal dagger. Significant increase in the armor penetration on this Katal dagger. And then 81% damage effectively against armor. A legendary noble sword would just be better than this thing. Straight up, no questions asked. Where it gets even more interesting is that the noble swords, the peasant militia army can 100% make use of the plus 10% chance to hit with the noble sword. And it's that last bit right there that I think just makes the noble sword better, period, end of story. They're just more stamina efficient. They have plus 10% chance to hit, which I can totally make use of. And when I get my hands on even a basic bitch legendary noble sword, it starts going Super Saiyan extremely quickly. So the noble sword, virtually without exception, is going to have at least 100% damage to armor. There's a really good chance the noble sword also comes with like a -1 or a -2 stamina cost per usage. And at that point, the brother is like literally stamina neutral, which is awesome. I just think the swords are basically the way to go. And also, how cool and thematic is it that I'm going to have 16 brothers with shields, swords in the front, jab throwers in the back? It's a damn Roman legion, right? I mean, okay, let's... I'm tickled pink to go try that. So anyways, this video is getting kind of long. I'll end the video here, and day is full, boys.